Hold on. I want to address that first. Fuck it. It's only 30 seconds. Oh, right, yeah. Are we doing... Right. Okay. So... All right, so internet... Oh, so, yeah. This isn't really the morning Coffee Corner podcast. This is now the evening Coffee Corner podcast because we had some issue with my phone today. Turns out, okay, that the OnePlus 6T's default alarm length is a minute. 1 minute. You have a single fucking minute to wake up. And if you don't wake up in 1 minute, that's it. You're out. So this morning I woke up 2.5 hours late and I was like, oh, what? Not even close. I didn't even know it happened. I was just, Bro. So I immediately changed it to never stop, and then I thought about buying like a better smartwatch so I could actually wake myself up with like the right timing, and then I sort of chilled on that idea. Anyway, that's a whole big thing, okay? Yeah, so today I think part of the reason it's important, first of all, that Ravi did not hide the names is because people would just tell him it didn't matter if it was somebody random. Like, if, let's say if, fuck, I'm trying to think of somebody. Let's say Internet is Kill, okay? Internet is Kill is in the chat, and he's like, streamer, I fucking hate everything you're doing right now. You talk too much, you're a little bit too quiet, you don't box the units fast enough, alright? You're not tanned enough, simultaneously, you're too tanned, and, I just, have you considered buying a headset mic? I feel like your current mic is a little in the way, And, naturally, if I were to bring this up to my buddy Big F in Discord, if I was to say, hey, look at what this guy in chat said, he'd say, who cares? It's just a fucking Twitch chatter, right? It's just somebody behind a keyboard, right? Well, I think that it's stuff like that, right? Because, I know Ravi and Rifkin are actually close. Like, they're friends. Not, like, close. I don't know if they're close. Like, I've seen them hanging out together at events. I know that they talk. They've casted together like they're friends. So, when somebody that you know and is your friend says something critical about what you're doing, right? And it brings out your worst fears directly, then, yeah, it's going to hit hard. It hits hard. And it's important to see that, especially because I don't think Ravi was trying to throw anybody under the bus. I think it's important to understand the first thing to bring up here is that when this whole thing happened, like, he's framing his own insecurities as, like, the things that have fed it. He doesn't say it like, look at what this fucking guy said, or this fucking guy said, or that fucking guy said. He's saying, I have issues, and these are the things people have said that bring out my problems, right? It's not framed in a way to throw someone under the bus, and I don't think he's trying to do it. So I have some notes here for the first time on a Coffee Corner podcast. This is number 3. I have some notes because I didn't want to get this wrong. So I think it's important to say that I truly like both of these guys, right? And it's a good point to start because I give the benefit of the doubt to both of them. In the sense, let's say, in the sense of Fear Dragon, I don't think he's trying to throw anyone under the bus. And with Rifkin, I think he's just speaking his mind as he does, okay? I don't think he's trying to be a douche. And honestly, I don't even think he really was, but we'll get to that. So, for reference, Rifkin is being in my chat a bunch, and he has helped me out on numerous occasions. And on top of that, every time something happens to me, right, Rifkin has always been there to, like, he's got my back. He's telling me what I can and can't say because of Twitch's TOS. He's helping me out, financially. Like, when I offered to cast for him, or like he asked me to cast with him, and then I went and did that. I didn't ask for money. I didn't even want money, and he still paid me regardless because he insists on people getting what they're owed, right? So, it's important to say that because these things help frame the fact, like, how I look at this situation, and honestly might tilt my perspective, but I'm not the most unbiased human being in the world. I just want you guys to know the truth. And I mean, Ravi's been I've seen him at many events in Canada and the States. He's been shitposting in my chat forever. If he tells one more bad pun, I'm gonna ban him, I swear. I love both of them. Okay? I don't know if it's equal. I haven't measured it on a scale. So I just want you to keep that in mind. So when you look at these comments, or this comment by Rifkin, so there's I really don't want to talk too much about it because that's not really what I wanted to talk about. When I saw this post, I'm going to frame this first. When I saw this post, I actually wanted to talk about the mindset portion because I'm not playing the clip. There's two things specifically, okay, that Ravi says in the beginning that I think a lot of content creators make the mistake of doing. And I want to talk about them, but I think it's dodging to not talk about the thing that everyone's talking about. Like, I feel like if I went into the thing I wanted to talk about, which is the mindset thing, but just blew past this, I feel like people would actually get upset. And not only that, but they'd be right, because this is what people are taking from it. And I think it also segues well into the mindset portion of it, because obviously it's about what affected, Ravi's mindset in the one-dimensional way. So the primary thing is that there are two takes really in my mind that we can have when we look at this post. It's a private post, it's a private conversation, or it's a public post. Okay? Now, if it's a private conversation, okay? Like, this is legit. If you get mad at him for saying this, then you have to get mad at almost every single person in the StarCraft scene. Like, I don't care if you're a caster or a player or fan. Every single person I know has said something about this or like this, okay, to some degree about somebody in some way. Like some, hot take opinion about how they don't like what certain person's doing. And it's looks, really harsh and shit, and people just speak in their mind. So if this is in private, it's something everyone has done, and I know this, okay? Personally, I think the last time I did something like this was maybe Supernova Maniac, early on. One of those casters for Pro League, okay, was just grinding my gears. But he improved a lot. By the time he left, I don't remember who it was, one of them, right? By the time he left, he was actually good. Well, good. I wanted to preface, I have a low bar. When it comes to watching WCS events and casting events, I feel like the commentating take on the game, wrong or right, is part of the broadcast to me. I don't care if they're wrong. If the broadcaster's learning about the game on the fly, that doesn't affect me, right? If the person's a little dry or their humor doesn't hit, it doesn't phase me. These things don't bother me, so you won't find me complaining too much about these broadcasts. I mean, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, they were wrong a lot, but it doesn't negatively impact my experience. If I'm watching a broadcast to learn, it's muted, and I'm paying attention to the game. I'm taking notes and shit. I don't have time for Artosis and Tasteless to tell me what the game looks like. I can see with my eyes, right? So, when we're talking about if this is said in private, it's a much different thing than if it's said in public. So, having the date here doesn't mean that it's, I guess, yeah, if you look at the Discord, the memes, yeah, I guess because it's the text is colored, it's probably a Discord role. But it could be a small Discord, just a few people. It could have been a huge public post. So we'll get into the public. So if this conversation was public, if this post was public, it's different. Like I said, I know Rifkin, and I don't think he would try and drag Ravi through the mud. But we've got to be honest about how it looks. Try and be unbiased about it, because despite how much I love both these dudes, why does it look bad? So, I specifically attempt to avoid talking about streamers in a negative light unless I'm absolutely sure that I want to die on that hill. Because when you speak about somebody who's specifically in your lane doing the same thing you're doing, and you take an opportunity to say something, to give them criticism publicly, a lot of people are going to see it like you're capitalizing on, this person's misfortune or how they're doing something for self-gain, like to push yourself forward. And I think that's most people's problem with this particular post. When I read the Reddit thread, of course, this is a gigantic post, Ravi's spilling his heart out, and all anybody could take from it is the fact that one guy talked some shit, right? Which is ridiculous in and of itself, and it's a separate topic all on its own. But what we have here, I really feel like, is most people feel like this is Rifkin shitting on Ravi because he's trying to make himself look better or whatever. Because that's what it looks like when you shit on somebody who's doing the same thing you're doing. Like, it's not a Rifkin thing. It's all things. Like, this is why, what is it? Like, you get a lot of rappers who say stuff like, I don't hate on anybody's hustle. Like, I don't, shit on people trying to make their own way because just because I did it this way doesn't mean that they shouldn't do it their way, right? There's no one way. And there's no one way to do things. So honestly, in my personal opinion, when I first read this, my first take is looks bad. It really does, because Ravi commentates the little things too. It's not even like he's just a WCS caster. He does the little things, and Rifkin runs his own tournaments and does his own thing. And they're actually very, very close in the hierarchy of StarCraft stuff. So I feel like it felt immediately like a direct shot. But then I thought about it, and I thought about Rifkin's history. And the reason why I prefaced this whole thing with Rifkin always speaks his mind is that Rifkin always does this. It doesn't matter who it is. And I know that doesn't excuse anything, but it kind of gives a little bit of context to the fact that if somebody's always speaking their mind, irregardless of who it is, it's harder to see it as a shot, right? And if you're looking at it to be honest, right? And somebody consistently speaks their mind no matter what the consequences are, and the only way to be mad here is if he's trying to do something bad, but he does this all the time, that gets him in shit. It's tough to look at it like it's a shot. It is. Because I know that Rifkin, probably wouldn't do that. And I think Rifkin's the kind of guy who would reach out to you on Twitter and be like, yo, I didn't like what you were doing. What this looks like to me is Rifkin was watching WCS, didn't like how the production was going, turned it off, and went straight to his Discord. So I want to, and like, obviously, people might be like, well, I mean, streamer. He still said it in public, it's bad. And you know what? If you presented that as an argument to me, I respect it. I won't argue you. I don't argue with it. But as a streamer myself, I'd like to give a little bit of context here, right? And I'm not gonna go T-Quick. I'm not gonna go into what he said, because the whole thing just reads like he's just trying to understand why the production quality wasn't where it was at, and who he thought it was the problem. But really, it could have been like he could have been hitting in control for the same shit. He could have turned it around. It could have been anybody here, and it could have been a problem, right? It doesn't really matter. I'm not trying to bring. I'm trying to look at the situation, not trying to bring everything into it. It is important also to notice that a lot of people were talking shit about WCS at this time. It just, again, looks bad because Rifkin's in the same lane, right? That's the only thing I think separates this comment from it being private or it being anyone else, and it being someone like Rifkin, Zombie Grub, Artosis, The Muslim, whatever. Like anybody who does WCS casting or casting in general, right? So it looks different, right? You don't see Nate calling. Okay, so Sassy says you don't see Nate calling any other casters out. You don't think Nate's ever talked shit about a caster in his life? I'm pretty sure. I'm not positive. Don't quote me. But I'm almost certain I've seen Nate in this chat saying, talking shit about like fake hype casting, and all sorts of other like casting things, and talking like this is, kind of not true. It's not. I don't think that's honest. I think that everybody talks shit. I've seen everyone in my Discord talk shit about some commentator or streamer before. So if you're gonna hold this guy to a standard just because he holds an opinion, then you have to hold everyone else to a standard. So I think the only huge difference is that, again, they're in the same lane. The question is whether or not you feel like this is a shot directly for personal leverage, which I don't think it is, because, like I said, Rifkin, he always speaks his mind. So you might then be like, well, I mean, it's still a public place. He probably shouldn't. Okay. Discord is strange. And I want to, as a streamer who has a reasonably large Discord that's very active, just recently, you guys know that Jim passed. I have seen more than one individual in my Discord say it feels like home, right? And this isn't an excuse, but I want you to understand a little bit on how it feels when you're a streamer. Like, I spend a lot of time in my Discord. It does not feel like a public place. It doesn't. I obviously am careful and methodical about the things I do with my life. And like I said, I try not to talk shit about streamers unless I'm willing to die on the hill, because I feel like, again, I'm in their lane. I don't want to look like I'm trying to bring them down or drag myself up or anything. But it feels very much like I'm talking to people that I love and care about and that I speak to every day, and like my friends and stuff, right? I don't feel like I'm in public. Like, when I'm on Twitter, I recognize that is a perfectly public place, right? Not personally perfectly public place. It's like right up on a billboard for everybody to read. And I'm very careful about the things I put there. I try and keep it like a little bit cozy, because I always like to sit down and grab a cup of coffee with anybody, and I try and keep that sort, not persona is who I am, but I like to keep that feel when I tweet, or like, when I post in Discord. It's like, these are the people I care about. So when I'm posting in Discord, but Discord, like, I have a partner Discord. Discord.gg/upatree is public to literally everybody. Anybody can go to FamChat right now and see what I've been saying and see what anybody's been saying. You know what I mean? So while it's not an excuse, it gives you a little bit of an understanding as to why somebody might say something in a public Discord that they should probably have kept private between a close group of friends, or just like a friend. Because it's a personal thing. Because to us, to the streamers, and to the people in a Discord that is as tight knit as, like, say, mine, or maybe Rifkin's, like, I don't know, because I haven't been there, but it's easy to feel like these are close personal friends, and like you're having a private conversation, right? Yeah, so I guess from here, I kind of wanted to talk about the two things that Ravi kind of talked about mentality-wise. Now, I've thought about the Rifkin thing a lot because I want to be very careful, right? So Curtis says, Sal, hold on. Before I do that, Curtis says, Sal, I think the Discord argument is a little thin, though. I see where you're coming from, but it's still typed out criticism. No, Curtis, I prefaced that, right? And I'm gonna be honest. It's not. Yeah, Internet is Skill has it right. It's a side note, not an argument. Like, you could not quote what I said as a defense. It's not going to defend you, but it's important that we remember. I think very frequently, people on social media and Reddit and whatever, they forget these are fucking people, okay? And they make mistakes. We all make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Sometimes they're serious and sometimes they're not. But it's important to remember that we do, because, this is not, there's no PR group for us or whatever. We're small time, right? No, I mean, okay, listen, T-Crick is saying that Rifkin can say whatever he wants. WCS is a shit show. Listen, all I'm trying to say is that the distinction here is that it's who they are when they say it. That's what I think Reddit's problem and anybody's problem, the only logical problem, right, was that the person saying it is not like they're doing the same thing the person on the screen is doing. It looks bad because the person looks like they're trying to drag them down, even if it is just a personal opinion. That's why I feel like in Rifkin's defense, Rifkin posts his fucking opinion everywhere regardless of whether or not people want to hear it or not. And take that for what you will. But in my mind, this just feels like exactly the same thing. So Ripple Carey has a problem with the cheap labor thing. I don't think he was actually talking shit about the value of Ravi's casting, but more about the broadcast in general. Like, I'm not going to get into this because I don't care about this, but I think he's talking about the broadcast and how in order to bolster the broadcast, they hired one more caster instead of fixing the broadcast and its problems. But I'm not sure that's how I read it. Like, I could be wrong. I don't know, right? I feel like that's what it reads like. Now, yeah, and so Seraph says companies like to pay cast as little as possible. It's clear that Rifkin always wants people to get their money. He got mad at me when I didn't run ads when I had 10,000 viewers for front page time. So when he says the cheap labor thing, if anything, it's a shot at how much casters are getting paid, right? I mean, no, Ripple Carey. So Ripple Carey continues with, you need to think about what you write. And honestly, we already kind of covered that. Like, yeah, this is a Discord post, and it's an immediate hot take. And I agree, right? I agree with you. I conduct myself differently, right? I do. And I don't think you're wrong. But again, it's important that we remember what this is, right? This is, this is me talking about somebody I like and who's talking about somebody I also like. And so I even said that I'm going to be generous and I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt because I know these people and I like them. Both of them. Right? So, I mean, yeah, everybody in chat thinks I'm being generous, which is fair. That's fair. It's a fair criticism. And honestly, the only reason I kind of grappled with in my head that I came to that really not exonerates Riff, because I think he still should have been more careful, but that's how I handle myself. The only thing that is like, if somebody is always speaking their mind on a thing immediately, it's hard to look at a thing that they said immediately and feel like they really were shooting at anybody in particular, because he was just saying how he felt about what he saw. Take that for what you will. And, honestly, like, this really isn't... No, I mean, it's not... No, I don't think that this is, like, just... Yeah, but, okay. I didn't say it's fine to say whatever you want. Okay, T-Quick is trying to bait me here, and I'm going to... Let's back up a sec. I'm not saying it's okay to do that. And I don't think it's okay to do that because I don't do that. Okay? If I thought it was okay to just say whatever I wanted as if that was my opinion, right? Then I would all the time without thinking about it. But I don't. I conduct myself differently, right? My point is that if you're getting mad that this person said something in specific, and the reason that you're mad is because you feel like they're taking a personal shot at somebody, and the reason that flies is because the person thought about it and was like, I'm gonna fucking capitalize on this moment, take them down. It's hard to do that, to make that leap, if the person is just saying shit frivolously all the time. And he's just speaking his mind, whatever he feels at the time. And you know what? this clearly wasn't edited. But I would expect Rifkin to say something like this to me, and I wouldn't take it personally because I would look for the like the honesty there. Like, what can I take from this? But that's me, you know. The lights seem brighter today because the background is white. I have no dark mode. See that? Yes. I wish there was a dark mode on Team Liquid, but there isn't. Okay, so we're stuck. Okay, so I want to get in, like, I want to go from there because I think it's, I don't think there's anything else. You're just gonna beat a dead horse, right? Like, into the ground here. When you look at this situation with Riff and the drama that's going on or whatever, everyone's gonna draw their own opinions. And obviously I have a very nuanced opinion because, like I said, I know both of these people and I like them both. And I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Because, and this is serious shit, if anything ever happens to me and I do something stupid, I want people to give me the benefit of the doubt. So I give people benefit of the doubt. You understand? I conduct myself in the way I genuinely want other people to treat me. If I said something fucking stupid and didn't think about it at all, and then it came back to bite me in the ass 8 months later, I would like you guys to think that maybe I wasn't trying to be a douche. Because nobody's perfect, and we all say shit like this. Right? Who knows where you're going to be 8 months from now? Like, 8 months from now, I could be like, I think In Control's a trash caster. And then, you know, maybe I like cast a few things and Blizzard's desperate and I get hired and I'm on the fucking desk. And I'm like, all right, guys, let's cast. And In Control looks over at me. He's like, you said I was shit. And I'll just be like, God damn, you bench 470 pounds. Well, I mentioned In Control specifically. I was going for the 470-pound bench press payoff, actually. So I was thinking comedy 10 years ahead. That's right. Get fucked, son. Okay. So, again, we're going to segue, all right? I don't want this to be a fucking 10-year podcast. So, Ravi specifically mentions two. If you mention the Rift thing anymore, I'm going to ignore you, by the way. I love you. And I'm sure your opinion is super sick. And I really care, I promise. Okay? But we're moving on. And that's it. So, I think this is actually extremely important that we talk about the mentality thing. And I actually reached out to Ravi. I asked him if he wanted to talk about it on stream. And naturally, I expected him to say no. Because it literally just happened. He just posted this today. And so I don't want to get into the personal things. Like, you know, there's some family illness stuff here and finances stuff. And honestly, he said what he's going to say. And there it is. There are two things in here that I feel like everybody can look at and contemplate for themselves. And especially if you're into content creation meme. Because content creation, like, I have an Eng background. Okay, so I'm gonna go off on tangential shit here. So I have an Eng background, so when going pretty much to like last year in Eng, things were right or they were wrong. Right? Content creation is not like that. Things are not right or wrong. They are like very, very subjective. And obviously the mentality you use for playing StarCraft and learning StarCraft is not gonna fucking fly for casting necessarily. For the art of improving, you know, your lingo or your pronunciation or perhaps your game knowledge, maybe. But the package is not something I think that you can sort of like, you know, incrementally just get to the best possible place. And so this first one, he says here, you know, some of it comes from Natalia. I developed to try and prove everything is my fault. Now, this is an excellent mentality to have in StarCraft 2 because it is in fact your fault, regardless of what happens to you, unless perhaps you're Cyril in which case it's everyone else's fault for not picking Zerg. But when it comes to developing a personality, right? Like I don't think the same thing, the same thing flies there. It's tough to really express how rough that can be, because some things are in fact out of your control, right? And he even says it in here. It became hard to give himself credit. And that's a direct side effect of thinking that everything's your fault, is that if you're constantly focused on all of the things that went wrong, it's tough to take anything good out of it, right? Like imagine that you're at a 3-course meal and it has a sick entree and a really good dessert, but it had a pretty meh appetizer. Like, if everything is kind of negative here, like all you walk out of the restaurant with is the reminder that the appetizer was crap. In which case the money you blew on the dinner was worthless, and the fact that you even went out at all is just, kind of meh. You don't enjoy it. And yeah, but I feel like the first thing, you could use parts of that, but you can't apply it to everything. You can't apply it to your personality as a whole, because you end up blaming yourself for things that some people aren't going to like, regardless of how fucking good you do. Right? And I think this is the part that I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to build up to it. We're talking very much about a thing that is subjective, specifically, right? Like the way people hear your content when you're either streaming or casting an event is a subjective thing. I have never in my life turned off a broadcast with Ravi and Nate in it because I thought, hey, like this is shit. I hate this. Oh my, this is cringy. Like I enjoy watching two people I like talk shit to each other and talk about the game, even if they are wrong. I chuckle about it because I'm like, oh, I saw that, but I'm not here to pretend I'm gonna do any fucking better than them, right? Like, so how can you be wrong if the product you're selling is you, right? So of course there are things like game knowledge you can work on. You can become more right, and there are things that you can like work on, how you bounce off of people, and you can work on what words you use. But if you're literally looking at your personality, the thing you bring to the table is supposed to be innate that you can't get anywhere else, and now that is like something that's wrong and it's your fault, like what are you gonna do there? You can't, there is no winning. So when it comes to developing a personality or using your personality or whatever, I don't think it's a good tactic in the first place. Obviously he knows that, but I just wanted to expand on why I thought this is a bad thing to use for subjective things, right? Sometimes it's not your fault, right? Sometimes it's okay that people don't like what you do, because not everyone can, okay? And the second thing he said, and this is in quotes here, the reason hateful comments and whatnot didn't used to bug me in the past was because no one had ever said anything to me that was worse than my existing opinion of myself. When I read that, I was surprised. I thought about it a lot, and I wondered to myself, has Ravi ever been on the internet? Because I don't know about you guys, but Twitch chat regularly informs me of things I thought I was like okay at. That I'm much, and I have like a low bar. Like they say shit that's much worse about myself than I think all the fucking time. Like, and I think so in this particular way, like you are having a thick skin because you have a very, 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 very low opinion of yourself is not the right. I don't think it's a healthy thing to do at all. Obviously, he knows this, but I think in general, when we're talking about like the way that you deflect, negative things is by thinking negative things about yourself. Yeah, I think it just doesn't really fly here. I just don't think it flies in general, because negativity is like positivity in that you can be positive infinitely, and you can always go beyond what someone else thinks positively. Like, people could think that honestly we're all gonna eventually just progress till we're all floating on a cloud of marshmallows, like, you know, as like super spiritual enlightened beings that live forever or whatever. And some people think that we're all going to hell, and you know, we're all getting beaten by Protoss, and all we have is one health Marine, and it's just like shit. Right? So you can't really beat the bar of other people. People will always find something more negative to say. If there was a floor, maybe it is good that, because you could always be the optimist, right? But I don't think there is a floor. And eventually you'll catch yourself thinking you did something right? I think this is important to keep in mind too, because I'm kind of, I didn't think, I realized I wanted to talk about this, and I freeballed it a little bit, as you can probably tell. I didn't have as much of a structured thought process here, but fuck, I completely lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Go. Oh yeah, you could be the optimist here, right? Like, if you have a floor and you look up, and all the negative people are saying, like, you can, it looks good when everything says bad, right? But eventually you're gonna catch yourself, right? Okay, I remember this. Eventually you're gonna catch yourself thinking that you did something right, and you're gonna value that thing that you did right really highly, because you always think the worst about yourself, worse than anyone else could think. So finally you do something excellent, and you're like, hey, that was pretty good. I finally had a good stream today, or a good cast today, or whatever it happened to be today. And some motherfucker in Twitch chat, or on the YouTube comments, or in Reddit, is gonna say that shit was garbage. And you're just gonna be fucking destroyed. Absolutely ruined. Because you never think the good shit. So you thought that this time maybe you got it right, and somebody's just like, no man, that's crap. It's trash. And it's just going to absolutely destroy your state of mind. But I think both of these thought processes comes from this point, which I have thought quite a bit about. It's just impossible to make content for everybody. And I think every content creator getting into content creation should know that, and really hold that as the tenet of what they make and what they do. If everybody, I actually have this in in notes. If you could make content for everybody, there would be 3 streamers. Okay? They would all stream 8 hours a day. One would go like noon to 8, 8 till 4, 4 till noon. Everyone would watch them, and that would just be end of the story. Because the fact that we don't all appeal to everyone is why there's so many streams to watch in the first place. Right? So when you're making your content, you have to think, what do I want to make? What is my vision? And you have to find people that also have similar vision and are willing to, critique you, and you become friends with them. Like, for me, I had Jimtony, I have Filker, Smile, some of these guys in chat, Nate to an extent, especially on the broadcast side of it. I have all these people that I bounce things off of because I had a vision when I became friends with them, and I feel that they have a similar vision. So when I have a thing that I want to work on, and you too, Timmy, yes, okay. Yes, sometimes I do in fact speak to you as if you're a human being. I always refer to the people whose opinions I know, right, will kind of keep me honest. Sometimes I'm a little, like, I try to be very nitpicky, but occasionally I might be a little lazy. Let's say like once or twice in 100. And I'll be like, yo, Philka, what do you think of this? But I already know he's going to be like, you could do better than that. Get out of here, right? So when I make a thing and somebody in Twitch chat's like, you should turn the music up to max. What are you doing? Why is it so quiet? I don't really think about it negatively. Like I don't really think about the fact that people are shit on how bad I am or like whatever I'm doing sometimes, because I know I have a different direction, and I had the people whose opinions I truly value. I always, follow them and respect them. Right? And obviously Ravi's probably gotten to this place. I don't really know. I haven't had a chance to talk to him about it. But I think that's where you want to end up. You want to end up in a place where, you're making the content that you want to make for the people you want to serve as best as possible, right? You're not slacking or cutting corners or whatever. I think that's what you want to do, and you have to come to the realization that there are going to be people that just don't like what you're doing because they don't respect it, right? For example, if you have a play-by-play commentator and all they do is play-by-play, people who only like analytical casting are going to fucking hate what you're doing every single day, every single second of your life. They run in stark contrast to what you do. The things that they love are not the same as what you make, right? It's like somebody who loves to cycle every day, right? Trying to sell them a car, not gonna work. Or trying to sell a vegan a fucking steak, off of a elk you just hunted or something. It's just not. It's the wrong demographic. Sometimes it's just not gonna hit, and that's fine, because you can't make everybody like what you're doing, right? You know that you fucked up when the people whose opinions you respect tell you, hey, what you did was not right, or I didn't like that at all, or I think you could have improved or whatever, right? That's when you're like, oh shit, I gotta take a better look at that. But I think most importantly, at the end of the day, you're the bar. Like, if the content is truly up to your own standards and truly like what you feel is the best that you can do and what you want to make, I mean, that's it. Even the people who are close by you, sometimes you're going to want to change a little bit, right? Yeah. Would you give up on... Okay, so T-Quick, so to close, some from the chat memes. T-Quick says, would you give up an opportunity to cast WCS if you were paid the big bucks just because you wanted to impress everyone? Wait. Would you give up an opportunity to cast WCS? I didn't know if he'd misspoken. Would you give up on an opportunity to cast WCS if you were paid the big bucks just because you wouldn't impress everyone? I mean, I turned down casting on Rifkin's channel specifically because I thought that there are other casters that not needed, but would bring more to the table than I would. So yes. Yeah, because I would never want to bring down the quality of a broadcast because I'm bad at my job. I'm also not a caster. Like, I don't pretend to be something I'm not. Yeah, of course. Like I was saying earlier, Rifkin always pays people. Like, as far as every interaction I have ever personally had with that man, he has always treated me like gold. Like, that's why when I look at this critically, I have to step back as much as I can, but there's still an amount of me that gives him the benefit of the doubt. Let's see. Yeah, okay, if I was in Ravi's shoes, yeah. Of course I would have. Of course, because the thing is that, all right, listen. No. Because Ravi wanted to be a caster, right? And if you're trying to be a caster and you're doing what you're doing well, even if you step up to the big leagues, there's going to be an adjustment period. There is no shame in not being the fucking best at something right out of the gate, right? Only Reddit and fucking social media and people who sit in their couch at home watching a broadcast are going to expect every caster to bring 100% every time. Especially new casters. Like, people just talk shit. Like, it's funny though, when Ravi started, he got a lot of compliments because he was doing pretty good at the beginning. And you'd always get people who talk shit at the bottom, right? Always get people who talk shit at the bottom. No matter what, you'll always find people who talk shit about what you're doing. It's impossible to not have that happen. Right, and so Logan says Ravi was fine. He wasn't super knowledgeable, but he was a likable dude. In my opinion, that's what Ravi brought to the table. And I know that's going to seem cheap. Like, well, all he was a likable dude. It's hard to be a likable dude. It's hard to have so much passion for a thing that everybody feels it when they watch what you're doing. That is not something you can learn or buy or inherit. You just have to have that. It's tough to have, right? It's tough to be infectiously passionate about something like Ravi is. And I don't think he credits himself at all in this post. I mean, he'd be a little bit narcissistic if he did, I guess, but I feel that way. I think he'd be honest. You know, it's hard to take that in here, like, for him. Because people want to be objectively better. He wants to be a good caster objectively, whatever that is. But it's tough to be good in such a way, right? Like, and actually understand and respect it for yourself, I think. Like, if someone says, yo, I love your stream, you're super chill, and you're such a great guy. Like, what does that mean for me as a streamer? I keep comparing because all I have, I'm not trying to be a narcissist, all I have are anecdotes for myself. Like, so I'm trying to relate what I know with the situation. That's what I'm trying to do, right? Yeah, I mean, but that's, so like, you know, Logan says Ravi to me is like the middle of the pack tier 2 caster. He's good. I enjoyed his cast. My view on casters is like in control number 1 by a mile, especially with Too Good that when that happened. Rifkin's Abigorn at the bottom. Okay. That comment literally speaks to me as to why, like how ridiculous ranking casters is. It's stupid. Like, it's stupid. Like, talking about how good a caster is really dumb. Because, I mean, on a global, so like, you can do it on a personal level. That's fine. And you did. It's not like you tried to say, this is the rank, this is my rank. But, like, some people don't do that. They frame it as, this is the best caster, this is the middle of the pack, and this is the worst. Like, period. And it's like, well, but, you know, Logan clearly values humor over everything else. Like, his number 1 caster is in control. Whereas when you look at someone else is like who wants an analytical person, maybe they pick like the Muslim or Artosis right now because the Muslim's like GM with all the races and whatever, maybe Pig, right? Their choice is going to be completely different. So who's tier 1? It just depends completely, right? Yeah, and sometimes you get people like Seraph and me. Like, I like everybody now. Like, if I tune into a cast, right now there's no person I'll tune out from. They all bring their own thing. And now they all have, like, a little bit of a history with one another and shit. Like, you know? Like, you just come to... I feel like they've come to all know each other and have like, a dynamic and crap like that. It's not... This is a stupid thing to do in general. It's just not... It doesn't make any sense. And it never has to me. But everyone does it. And that's why I brought the Rifkin thing into it in the first place, because especially if this was not done if this conversation had happened in private, which I don't know, now I don't think because of the name color, I don't think that it did. If it had happened in private, this is an opinion literally everyone has stated about something, like in the past. And how can you hate on somebody for having an opinion like that when everyone you know? I know it wasn't T-Quick. We went over it. I know it wasn't, because the name color says everything, right? Because that means that he had a role, which means that it was public. Yeah, okay, yeah, but that's, yeah, Echo 6, I 100% agree with you. Like, but not everyone has the same favorite sports broadcaster. Everybody might be a little bit, yeah. I mean, anyway, I don't know. I don't think there's anything more to really talk about. We talked about the mindset thing. I was a little bit like, I think I got there at the end because I knew where I wanted to go. But those two statements just stuck out as like, it's just too, you're too hard on yourself in a way that's unconstructive. Because I think it's good to be hard on yourself. I think it's really good to be hard on yourself and always push yourself forward and never think, like, you know, relish in the things you do well and then in the results, but never feel like it was enough. And I think it always pushes you forward to do better, right? I think that's all we can ever really do. But I think having mindsets like, you know, blaming yourself for absolutely everything without question, you know, just having the absolute lowest opinion of yourself, like, I think the problem is that they're disingenuous with you because you're not always going to be the worst. Like, it's not fair to say that to yourself because it's not the truth. It's not. Yeah, I mean, can you bring up a list of his blogs? Yeah. Oh yeah, he talked about the self-confidence thing way back here. Fuck. I didn't even know that. Yeah, I mean, then it's possible, Rev, you should really go back and listen to the part of this. So Revelin said, oh God, self-deprecation, low esteem, and lack of self-worth. Okay. You should probably go back and listen. Because I know that you're, you know, streaming and stuff. It's probably good that you hear my take on it. In fact, I think it's important. Because, again, you're making content. I don't want to say for your people, but it really is. Like, when I do my stream and stuff, like, I try and make content for you guys that I think you'd like. You know, I hate to say what I'm about to say, but it's like Apple did this for a long time. You know, probably up until like 3rd gen MacBook Pro. They made shit that people didn't even know they wanted yet. Like, and they were like, holy shit, I didn't even know I wanted this. I'm always trying to do that in some way, right? And sometimes it's frustrating, especially as a content creator, because I understand that change for us has to be iterative, because we're like, if you're a streamer, you're like the evenings entertainment. You know, people become accustomed to it. You have to do stuff like the podcast memes. Like, obviously this is running very long, but, you know, half-hour podcast edition, and slowly work your way into that. But yeah. Yeah, okay, so actually, Desolate Cheese has something I thought of earlier, too. He says, I think another problem is satisfy... Hold on, let me just check his phone. I think another problem is satisfied customers rarely say so. So positive feedback is always at an on-time low. All-time low. Of course, this is a huge problem. Right? Like, there are... Like, when WCS happens, like, 14,000 viewers. And, like, 5 people talk shit at the bottom of a Reddit thread. Right? Like... we have to have a sense of scale here, and it's hard to do so when it only ends up being the people who dislike your shit that speak up, right? That's why app creators fucking spam you to give them the 5 stars, because they know that only people who have a problem are gonna rate it, and they're gonna give you 1 star. All right, T-Quick asked the hard question that I don't think I can answer. T-Quick says, if his father didn't get cancer, do you think Fear Dragon wasn't improving fast enough? Mate, like I said before, I never thought he had any problems with his casting. When I watched my friend get up on the stage and say and talk about the game. Like, I'm not. I know. I understand the position. Like the new. Like I see it for what it is. Like I see his commentary as what it is. Like I don't see it for like X software engineer gives take on StarCraft that has to be incredibly accurate. Like that's not what I see. It wasn't just everyone was. Yeah, so there was like one WCS broadcast everyone thought was really bad, right? The only thing I took from that is that they used a green screen and it looked like shit that time. Yeah, man, like, listen, the thing is that there are so many avenues. Like, I'm not a caster, so I can only theorize based on my very limited understanding about how it works. So I'll try, because that's kind of the point here. And if any caster watches this on like YouTube or whatever, because that's where I'm putting it, you feel free to hit the dislike button. There are so many avenues to improve, and we have to include things like, how you like interacting with another human is going to be one area to improve. How to fill downtime and how to fill that the air between statements, and right, like no, but I can. So T-Quick says, you already said you like all casts, so your opinion kind of becomes irrelevant. No, I have a brain. I can think about how to improve what you're doing from an objective perspective. And sometimes you can feel the moments, right? Like, oh, look, like they haven't said anything for like 30 seconds. Or, oh man, nobody laughed at that joke. Or like whatever. You can see the moments, but sometimes they hit. And, people might get better and better at telling them. Like, you know what? I think In Control's delivery, like let's take In Control's delivery. Like In Control has been telling jokes on stream and In Control has been telling jokes on stream and on broadcast forever, right? And if you look at his delivery early on, it's probably not as clean as it is now, right? Like he's always been funny, but the way he delivers his comedic timing is probably improved, just like a comedian's does. Because no comedian would tell you that they were their funniest in their first 2 years, right? So that's even that. Like there are every element of your persona and how you deal with shit is going to be something that you feel you can improve on, but it's still, the package itself is still a subjective opinion. Okay, so hold on. T-Quick says, what's your honest opinion on whether... Okay, listen. I think he was improving... I think he was improving it at a good rate. But that's not really... Yeah, it's... like I said, it is tough for me because I already liked what he was doing, but I could still look at it objectively. I don't know what mass appeal is, T-Quick. I don't know what everybody wants as far as him as a commentator. I could never tell you. Oh, he said, yeah, he did say more, right? Yeah, he did say more. Sure. This whole conversation, like the one we're having, because I don't think I said that at all. So T-Quick says this whole conversation is misguided. We should just tell him best of luck with the family show instead of using this as an opportunity to say this is why he failed, but it's okay, you tried. No, I don't claim to know why he failed at all. In fact, the weird thing to me is I didn't think he was failing in the slightest. Now, he had other things in here that made him feel like he failed, but in my mind, he wasn't a failure at all. I don't understand that part of it, right? No, I mean, well, okay, valid parties. You already talked about why that's not necessarily true, but I don't necessarily disagree with you either. You gotta watch back. T-Quick says, I don't know, I still feel like he's not surrounded with people who who think he's improving fast enough. He says in this post that none of his colleagues felt this way about it, didn't they? Every one of them were supportive. So I don't think you're right at all. At all. I don't think you're right at all in this way. I think that it seems like if you look at this, like I don't want to get into this because this is his personal thing. It's in this post, like why he quit. He quit because finances, and he quit because of like his own self-confidence. But I don't think that's reflective of how. It's not reflective of what I saw, right? It's not reflective of how I saw it. So it's difficult for me to line the two up, and that's something we all have to consider, because whenever we look at anything, the person who is the person being critiqued has a different viewpoint than us, right? So I think his colleagues thought he was doing just fine, and they're probably surprised, to be honest, unless they spoke to him a lot. But yeah, I mean, if he's not, but I'm gonna guess that the real reason is because of the finances, like not the real reason, but the thing that he was like, okay, this is my metric for improvement is probably financial, because he has to pay rent like everybody else does. Like, there's just so many things in here. The post speaks for itself. I don't want to, this is really his thing. He'll probably talk about it in his own thing. Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people have a super negative, this is like negativity, but for the sake of self-improvement. But it's too I think personally, I think it's too much, and that's why I had the whole section on it, because I really feel like, when you're trying to improve at a craft that is subjective, you can't always look at it super negative like that. It's not. First of all, it's not healthy. But second of all, I think you become eventually, when you are successful, you have no lens to view that through. You can't appreciate your success because you still think it's shit. No matter what. It's important to raise the bar as you improve at the thing. Yeah, I actually said that, T-Quick. You can never... Yeah, it is extremely egotistical. This sounds really bad, Ravi, if you ever see this, I love you. It's very egotistical to think that you can have a more negative opinion than everyone in Twitch chat, because that's fucking false. You can find somebody in there who thinks worse than you do about you. It's impossible. Oh, it's not even about insults. Like, he just thinks that I imagine, like, I've had this before too, where I just think everything I'm doing is garbage. And you're like, oh man, I think it's so trash, no one could think it's worse. That's false. Okay, so Valid Party says, if all your professional colleagues are supportive, but the peanut gallery isn't liking you, and that gives you control, a career as a public presenter probably isn't a good fit. He recognizes this about himself and he's bowing out. It's a smart move. Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I know nowhere in here, like, that's why I said from my lens, when I look at Ravi's career, I thought he was doing fucking really well. Like, but when you're Ravi, standing there, you're a different man than me, right? And the way you see it is different, and perhaps psychologically you just realize, fuck man, I can't do this, right? I can't do this. There's no fucking shame. And really, the peanut gallery is like a small percentage of the peanut gallery. And honestly, listen, if we accept that there's going to be X percentage of people that no matter what you do, they're going to hate you. If you have less than that percentage of people hating you, you're doing better. Then, like, you're doing well. If 10% of people are always going to dislike your commentary and only 5% of people are commenting in fucking Reddit, like, dude, you're killing it. You're killing it. You're crushing it. Okay? You only have the worst humans talking shit about you, not like the slightly better worst humans. Sassy says if you look at the comments, it has pro players, team founders, and technical directors saying what she's done. Ravi is actually like a fucking pure ball of passion, dude. Like, you don't understand. Like, well, some people do understand clearly, and you guys might understand if you followed it, but like, he's everywhere. You cannot understate the amount this fucking guy has done for the community as a whole, right? Like, you can't understate it. It's a loss, but it's not a loss because he thinks he's going. I think he's bowing out for himself as a human, and not because I don't really think he thinks he's bowing. Like, I don't think he's bowing out because of his position or his failures or whatever. I think it's got more to do with the fact that for him, his personal sanity, it's probably better, and I imagine it is. Not everybody can look at someone telling them they're garbage at the game and just be like, I fucked your mother, like I do. Like, I don't. It's not. Not everybody does what I do. Yeah, I mean, okay. Listen. We don't want to. Seraph says what people don't realize is Ravi's game knowledge of the game history knowledge rivals even Roddy's. It's kind of ridiculous. No, I agree, and he has so much going for him. Oh, short. I think we wrapped it up, right? Is that it? Are we gonna ladder now? How's Jason doing? We'll look from the followers section here. Just keep him minied. Is he killing it?